Could someone test, please?
We hear you.
Yep. Oh,
We're here.
Thanks.
All right, good morning. Let's see. So I call this meeting to order the special session. Ms. Thomas, would you do roll call, please?
Mayor Walker,
Present.
Vice Mayor McGill,
Present.
Councilor Hill,
Here.
Councilor Payne,
Here.
Councilor Smith,
Here.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Ms. Thomas?
Mayor Walker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGill,
Yes.
Councilor Hill,
Yes.
Councilor Payne,
Yes.
Councilor Smith,
Yes.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Boyles, I'll turn it over to you.
all right. Thank you, Mayor Walker and council. And thanks for agreeing to hold this special meeting to address several urgent matters before the city at this time. Clearly, we do not like to meet in this quick and urgent of a matter, but sometimes there are things that are so timely we do need to address, and this is one of those times. We do want to, our 30-day window for considering statue relocation is coming to a close very shortly. And so we wanted to make sure to have funding in place to be able to address that, which of course is very, very timely for us. And just as a reminder for council and the public, this is just putting funding in place so that we can either remove, store, or cover any or all of the three statues, the two Confederate as well as the Lewis and Clark Sacagawea statue, according to available funding. Any type of permanent disposition, transfer of ownership, or otherwise would have to come back to you as a council for approval and a vote. So this is today's only vote is to put the funding in place to do any of the relocation or covering. The other items are for introduction only, so that we can get them on your agenda for July 19th for a vote. Again, these are all just very timely in using either CARES money or the American Rescue Plan funding to fund immediate needs, such as trying to attract school bus drivers with the impending school year upon us in later August. At the same time, meeting our transit driver needs so that those can work in relationship with the school bus driver needs. And then we have a number of housing and community needs that can be tied to the COVID pandemic, and trying to make sure that we have funding in place as quickly as possible to meet certain housing needs, community needs, as well as some of our neighborhood needs. Those items are just for introduction, nothing to be voted on. And since we did do this in a very quick manner to come to you and begin this process, all of our departments that have items within this area will present to you a more detailed presentation prior to your July 19th meeting. And then we can revise any of these accordingly prior to the 19th for your final vote. So with that, I would ask that you would go to item number 1 with appropriating funds for the removal, storage, and or covering of the statues and sculptures of Confederate Generals Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and the Sacagawea, Lewis and Clark, and an amount of $1 million. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Counselors, any questions? No. All right, is there a motion?
I move that we accept resolution number 1.
Second.
So do we have to say appropriation?
The appropriation.
Mayor Walker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGill,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Payne,
Yes.
Counselor Snook,
Yes.
All right, so item 1 carries 5-0.
And if you like, I can just give brief descriptions of each of the following 3 items, though you don't have to take a vote on. If that's the pleasure of the council.
And right now, obviously, we have documentation to support those in the draft that you sent this morning. And you're saying that when we get back to the following meeting, we do the second reading, we'll have all the other additional details will be in those drafts.
Yes, we will have a formal presentation that we will send you, and you could decide if you would like for us to do those presentations at your council meeting, or if the written presentations will be enough. And of course, that will be for the public as well.
I would think for the public's interest today, we should at least talk, give a high level overview of each.
Sure, be glad to. I will start with the appropriating funds for the American Rescue Plan in the amount of $1,986,100. As council knows, the city of Charlottesville will be the recipient of just approximately $19 million that's divided over a 2-year period. We received the first half in May of this year, and we'll receive the second half in May of 2022. The final regulations are not out. We do not expect them to change drastically from the draft regulations from Treasury, but we do want to make sure that there aren't any substantial changes that could affect how we intend to appropriate our funds. We have a number of items that are very timely that we wanted to get out on the street as quickly as possible. Council has been talking about each of these to some extent. And just a reminder too, we're also waiting to see what our revenue losses will be for FY21. And that will be one of the biggest priorities for us with the, I keep using the wrong acronym, the ARP money, the American Rescue Plan, the ARP money. And so, but we don't know what that will be yet. So we're still holding that back from coming to you for an appropriation. But right now, what we're recommending is for community support, that we go ahead and approve on July 19th funding for the Peace in the Streets program, which is a neighborhood support program, and likewise the mentoring at Lugo McGinnis Academy. These are both conscientious capitalist programs that have submitted proposals to the city. At the request of the City Council, we have been in discussions with the Legal Aid Justice Center for an eviction prevention program, and we're recommending $300,000 for that program. And then also continuing our emergency relief and community assistance through our Pathways program that will be not only rental assistance, but other types of family financial assistance, $811,000. And then to support that with our Department of Human Services with COVID-related assistance, an additional $176,500. Under business support, trying to continue providing support to the City of Charlottesville small businesses, very similar to what we did with CARES funding, $250,000 there. And then so that we can make some safety improvements at City Hall and begin our operations moving back to normal, $200,000 for the city lobby reconfiguration with some safety improvements. We will do community engagement. There will be a public hearing at your July 19th on this matter. And as we said earlier, we'll be able to provide a written presentation on this to you ahead of time. Any questions on that one?
One of them, I thought it was the eviction prevention. We discussed the county's involvement. Is that the one I'm thinking of that has
Yes.
their involvement as well? I just wanted to share that with the public.
While they have not, my understanding is they have not taken a vote on that yet. They haven't, their board of supervisors, but it has been in discussion, and we do believe that that will be a regional partnership. Yes.
Thank you.
And Chip, one thing I want to clarify with that is that money is also anticipating a fund to draw upon, not just paying somebody as a specialist, but a full program to also have assistance.
Yes, the program right now, as it's drafted, will have legal representation, but the majority of the funding will go to community engagement support specialists trying to get to families before it gets to court, before they need an attorney, making sure that families know their legal rights and legal procedures prior to the court hearing. That seems to be where the biggest need has been in the past, but it would also have legal representation should it get to that point. And the community engagement specialists, they will be aware of the other financial incentive programs that should somebody need assistance with back rent that they weren't aware of, they'll be able to steer them into the direction that best fits their need.
And I think looking at that just holistically in terms of what the state dollars, we had talked about those, will do in terms of rent and mortgage relief, and what the human services dollars look like, how much the county is allocating. So I don't know if we know that, but do they plan to donate to the Pathway funds out of their first allocations? Because that's going to be helpful. Okay, I see Kaki's saying yes. So that'll be helpful with that. But also, Chip and I talked about just reporting for all of these, including like the Conscious Capitalist and Legal Aid, just for us to get an update just sooner than later about how it's going, where monies are going, and if we are having success here, you know, with these allocations early on.
And in that relation, as the mayor said, that would also give us an opportunity during the program itself to tweak it. If we find where we have a bigger need in one area than another area from what we originally thought, then we could revise the program accordingly while it's going. Okay. The second agenda item is that in working with the Charlottesville school system, identified an urgent need for school bus drivers. Our ideal population of school bus drivers is 30 drivers. We do have the ability to, through additional routes, get by with about 14 drivers. And we currently have 9 drivers with the school year right upon us. This is not unique to Charlottesville or Albemarle or Virginia. This is a national epidemic that's occurring all over. And there are a lot of theories of why there's a shortage of bus drivers. But in looking at this, staff is making the recommendation and has made the same recommendation to the school system that we provide an incentive hiring bonus of $2,400, and also to be able to provide improved health insurance benefits for all of our school bus drivers. This $2,400 would be paid over a 9-month period with probably an increased amount of the $2,400 towards the end of the school year, so that it would help during those summer months when the school bus drivers are not working. That's what we have. We believe this will be a very good way to attract new drivers and at the same time offer the same bonus to the existing drivers so that we can retain them. Similarly, we're recommending that the public transportation CAT transit drivers receive the same benefit package so that we don't create a problem for ourselves of having transit drivers quitting that job to take a school bus driver. Our starting pays for both will remain where they are, which is somewhat higher than our regional partners are. So we feel good with the starting salary range, but feel that this $2,400 incentive package would attract some new drivers and help us retain our existing drivers. And I'm sorry, the biggest part of this is whether directly or indirectly through CARES and ARP funding to fund this for a 2-year period out of those funds so that we wouldn't have to be dipping into the general fund for either program.
And the schools for the school bus drivers, they'll be covering those out of their dollars, right?
That's our discussion with them, yes, ma'am. And we would have this all confirmed by the time you'd have to take a vote on the 19th.
And my only other thought was just, and I shared this, earlier, just, we had one bonus round for all employees. And if we can figure out how to make sure that we are doing, if possible, something for employees, especially since we're adding the transit drivers to where the urgent need is school bus drivers, I think that will serve us as an organization as a whole well to figure that out.
And that's what we have before you today.
Any comments?
So I know that, sorry, for the schools, I know that there is an urgency given timelines, and obviously even to be trained to drive these types of vehicles takes some time. The soonest that we could start, that the schools could post for these positions would be following our 17th meeting. Is that my understanding?
The 19th.
Whatever, sorry. That
Yep, the
after we
19th.
take the vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just trying to think what we can proactively do to kind of ready the market for this, because this is a tight timeline given the start of the school year is like a month later.
Sure. Well, as soon as we just get a confirmation, even verbal confirmation from the schools that we're good, we will begin the marketing so that immediately upon an approval, we will have our marketing materials, what I've been kind of somewhat calling the flashing red lights that we can put out that says that we're offering this program. The other thing we will be working with our employees is an ability, and there could be an additional bonus that we would consider if existing employees can bring someone to apply. Other districts have also used that as one of their marketing materials.
All right, so everyone's comfortable with these 3 items moving forward, being added to our July 19th agenda. And if there's anything that can speed up the process for number 2, I think that's what we're hearing for the pupil transportation.
What is the Safe Walk to Schools program? Ideas about, I'm sure we're working with them about increasing the Safe Walk to Schools to try to reduce the amount of children. I know we have to offer school bus drive to all children, but if we can reduce some of the older children's stops, that might assist.
Yep, I'm not well versed on that. Mr. Williams, I see he popped on all of a sudden, but he may be able to answer for you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyles. Vice Mayor McGill, we've been working with schools over the last year, and they are looking at the radius for their Safe Walk to School program. They're looking at potentially expanding that radius to allow more individuals to walk, with them, with the parent to school. So that is a constant part of our discussion as we look how to get all of the kids to school safely this fall.
And I'm just going to bring this up to you, Mr. Williams, since you're here right now. I don't know if you've ever, who is in charge of where the bus stops are for school children?
So we work in conjunction with the schools. So it's us and schools and working, together to kind of get a safe haven for a location for kids to basically come together. So is there concern about the locations?
There's just one location I remember over in Angus Road area that was not overly safe. It was right against a guardrail and kind of on an embankment. There was no real flat place for the kids to be waiting.
Okay.
It's over in that area, kind of back behind Best Buy area.
Okay. If it's possible, can you send me a quick email and then we can talk with schools about the location?
I will.
Thank you.
That was my last question.
Well, thank you to staff. I know that this is a lot that's had to be pulled together, and these are all very time sensitive things. And so I just really appreciate the efforts to do so, and whatever we can do, again, just to make sure that we get things out there to get these bus drivers as soon as possible. Speaking as a parent too.
All right, if there are no additional comments, we'll open it up for public comment.
Thank you, Mayor Walker. If you're in the audience, you'd like to address council, please click the raise hand icon in the Zoom webinar. Mayor Walker, I'm going to keep track of time on my iPhone. First up is Malcolm Bell.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, go ahead. You've got 3 minutes.
My name is Malcolm Bell. I'm an art historian and former chair of the art department at the university. I've lived in Charlottesville since 1971. I don't think that the Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea monument should be confused with the Confederate monuments that are correctly scheduled for removal. The Lewis and Clark Sacagawea monument is an important work of art by a well-known artist. It is also completely innocent of the accusations that have been made against it. The artist, Charles Keck, wanted to honor and praise all of the members of the Lewis and Clark expedition, which is why he included Sacagawea, Native Americans, and York, the only African-American member of the group. The artist put his own name directly above the head of York. That's where he signed the work, making a conspicuous statement about his values. Maybe he was thinking of the sculpture that he himself had made of Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee Institute. We know from his own words that the artist also chose to include Sacagawea in the work. He wanted to praise her bravery and her special knowledge, which was so important to the expedition. Why would we want to remove this very beautiful work of art, which praises all of its subjects, one of whom was born in Albemarle County? I have made a preliminary survey of the merchants on West Main Street, and I believe that they favor keeping the sculpture because it embellishes their neighborhood. So I would say that you should not throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I urge you to rethink the decision to remove the Lewis and Clark sculpture. This council should not be remembered only as iconoclasts, destroyers of monuments, however necessary that is, but you should also be remembered as preservers of what should be kept and should be honored. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Philip Harway. Philip, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you, council members. My wife and I are 2 new members to the city 2 years ago. It's a great city. We have family here, and we're very happy to be here at this time when a serious look at our past history allows us to do much more to ensure a more equitable and fair future. I'm only aware of what's going on in terms of the future land use issue. I know that's not the main issue today, but it is significant because I read the Daily Progress every day, and I'm mostly retired. Most of my neighbors are not aware, and they're working, and they don't have as much time to opine. So such an important change, and yet so many are unaware, which is why I asked to speak today. I've been in business my whole life and involved in commercial real estate in some fashion the last 30 years. Change is necessary and it can be good, but it requires the city to be involved in making the right decisions towards affordability and equity. And the city must be involved proactively, as it is when the suggestion for you to put aside $10 million towards affordable housing. It's a great idea. Rezoning without prior conditions, though, as suggested in my reading of the FLUM document, is a recipe for density development and profitability for developers without solving some of our basic affordable housing problems. Piedmont Housing Alliance and Habitat for Humanity have developed an alternative series of maps and ideas showing most upzoning specifically tied to affordability. Their ideas, other than the changing of the R1 designation definition to the suggested low intensity or general, is to not give other by right upzoning without conditions. Otherwise, the city, you lose your ability to control. And you're then too dependent on developers making promises which are often not delivered. You have an opportunity to affect the future with a new plan. The plan being proposed now by FLUM, the consulting organization, is trying to plan on a 30-year or longer horizon. I don't know of any organization that's got a crystal ball that would allow it to put in place a plan for that many years with so many consequential changes, particularly if they do not maintain control of what's going to happen. Rezoning upwards without sufficient prior conditions in the new zoning leaves the city on the sideline while developers will do what they do, develop with profitability as their first goal. Lastly, it's still unclear to me projected demand for housing going forward to the next 10 years, the next 20 years is. There are too many conflicting statistics. Has the growth that's promoted with the FLUM plan been properly thought out in terms of how much more demand there will be on the infrastructure, the schools? Is this being coordinated with aggressive rezoning by the surrounding counties? Coordinated with UVA so that they do more to house their own students? Without such coordination, we cannot tackle this. That's a nationwide problem by ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have two additional hands raised. If you'd like to get in line, please click the raise hand icon. Next up is Kimber Hockey. Kimber, you're on with council. You've got 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
You need to speak up a little.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
That's better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for hearing me today. I'm not available on the 19th this time, so I just wanted to also express my family's beliefs about what's going on with the Flum plan. We've been here for over 20 years listening to talk about providing affordable housing, and yet with all the millions and millions of dollars that have already been spent in new housing over those years, where is all the affordable housing? For anyone who's been in Charlottesville for these past 20 years, there's a fairly long list of affordable housing projects that have gotten passed under that promise, but then they don't materialize as developers state their intentions, but then that affordable housing is never built. And there doesn't appear to be any accountability. Maybe the city can't do anything about it. I don't know, but they've broken too many promises about it. And it appears that the business and money interests are taking advantage of the need for affordable housing by appropriating affordable housing advocates' rhetoric. In the end, however, none of these units get built. We see hotels or luxury projects with the least amount of possible affordability. So all this has led to a lack of trust in the system. I think that there have been a lot of accusations of racism in NIMBY. They're severely displaced and looking to silence neighbors who are concerned about this lack of accountability. Future outcomes can be predicted by past behavior. And I would challenge the city, if you want to regain the public trust on this issue, rather than laying the groundwork for tearing down neighborhoods, reducing the tree canopy, and pushing unneeded commercial ventures into the neighborhoods, why not focus energy first on all of the underutilized commercial spaces that exist in the city, where there's already jobs and access to services and food as well. There are places such as Wright's Auto Parts that's gone on the market. I think there's about 5 acres there that could be potentially developed, that the city could use some of the $10 million to buy that and to create a community. There are many underutilized spaces in shopping areas as well that can be used, as was done with the Blue Moon Market Diner, where you built above and around it. The same thing can be done elsewhere in the city. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Next up is Lisa Torres. Lisa, you're on with council. You've got 3 minutes.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I just want to express my gratitude for addressing the funding for pupil transportation. And I guess I just had a question more than anything based on, I just wanted clarification that there is no way that we can get these jobs posted before the 19th. Is that my understanding? And what do you need exactly from us, Mr. Boyles, to help speed that along?
Thanks, Ms. Torres. Yes, we just need a confirmation that this proposal is acceptable to the school, and that the same support that you had offered with the original proposal would be in place for the 2-year period, albeit hopefully now at a much lower cost to the schools. That would be it. We will begin the process of putting everything in place administratively that we need, but to begin to advertise, we do have to have the council's appropriation approval that would occur on the 19th.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Didn't mean to cut you off. Now, I mean, just my understanding, and I didn't know if you had heard from either Mr. Henderson or Ms. Powell last night at some point. I know I had spoke with Ms. Powell in anticipation of you all meeting this morning, and felt like, they had some time to look at what council and staff had proposed, and felt like that, that was definitely agreeable and a great place to start. And I think we do, have other parts of this that we want to carry forward, and just the bigger scheme of talking about pupil transportation and how we can retain bus drivers going forward. But I felt and feel very confident that, and thought that they had kind of given you the nod last night that this was okay. So if there's any way that we can get these posted, because, you know, as you all are aware, and has been stated, and as has been stated by, you know, some of you counselors, we're really, even with this, which is wonderful, you know, highly unlikely to get some of the newer drivers trained and on the roads by the time school starts. So this is really, really important.
Thank you.
And one last call. If anyone else would like to address council, please click the raise hand icon in the Zoom webinar. We've got a couple more hands coming up. Jay James, you're on the city council. You've got 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
All right. First of all, as always, really appreciative of an opportunity like this, just to be able to speak to all of you. I want to thank you for your service. As you know, I'm a city resident, and I'm here today as a volunteer and a board member for a substance abuse and reentry program called the Bridge Ministry. You all are familiar with, and I was just wanted to talk briefly about the CARES funding and the appropriations that are such difficult decisions that you all have to make, and we respect that. And I know in the past we've applied for funding in terms of our substance abuse and reentry services, and even though times we may have been disappointed, nevertheless we're here to prove ourselves to you and continue to try to do that. And we had sent some information over to you about how much we've served the community since 2016 and how much we've invested in the number of people that have been served. And we hope you were able to review that. Hopefully, we're just hoping that you will consider, with these difficult decisions you have to make, partnering with us so that we can continue to serve the community that we love, and that we can do it together. So I don't want to go into too much and take too much of your time. You're considering so many difficult things today, but we would just humbly ask for your consideration when you start thinking about those appropriations. We've maintained a 0% COVID infection rate, been able to help individuals leaving incarceration and addiction. And these are things you know. And again, always grateful for you and your consideration. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor Walker, I don't see any additional hands. Oh, now we have one. Kathleen Glenn Matthews, you're on with council. You've got 3 minutes.
Sorry, this is not Kathleen Glenn Matthews. This is John Sales from CRHA.
Hello, John.
I just wanted to get on here and say thank you to Chip Boyles, Mayor.
John, I think we lost you there. Can you hear us now?
His mute is on, yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to get on here and say thank you to Chip Boyles, City Manager, Mayor Nakia Walker, and Garland Williams from CAT. We had an emergency at Crescent Halls 2 weeks ago, and they have been completely hands-on. The night of the incident, Chip Boyles was there, Mayor Walker was there helping families. The residents at Crescent Halls are very thankful. So I'm getting on here to express gratitude to you all, and I appreciate you. We're not done. We're not out of the emergency. We still have families that are going to need housing, and we're working on that. So we hope that you all stay committed and involved, and I'm sure you will. But I just wanted to say thank you for what you have done so far.
Thank you. Any other?
I don't see any other hands.
And my only comment would be to Mr. Bell. I think we, you know, again, if people go back and look at that 2019 meeting, we didn't just make this decision and try to be really thoughtful about making the decision. I guess that's my comment. By bringing Sacagawea's descendants here, who a couple of them had been here previously, at the request of former Mayor Dave Norris and Vice Mayor Holly Edwards. And we brought them in again, had I think 2 to 3 other indigenous tribes represented at that meeting. And so this is, I think, how we should make decisions, but we try to, you know, remove what we thought and ask them what they thought. And that's how this decision was made. So I just encourage anyone to just read some of the articles during that time, because one article said protesters are demanding removal of statues, and it was actually the descendants of Sacagawea. And so, of course, I have been advocating for it. I think the depiction, whatever the author's intention was, it doesn't come across as such for the descendants and other. And so it's just something to give thought to about how this decision was made, and that meeting is recorded and may be worth viewing for people who have questions. Counselors, any other questions or comments?
I appreciate those comments on that because I was going to comment on that as well. But the only other thing I was going to mention was that looking at the Planning Commission's agenda next week, it does look like that the HACS proposal, looking at the future land use map, will be discussed publicly. So I certainly wanted to let the public know that and encourage everyone to participate in that way. But that was raised by one of the speakers this evening, or sorry, this morning. So I just wanted to mention that that is on their agenda, and I believe, council will be present, a quorum of council will be present for that meeting.
Thank you. Counselors, any other? No, all right. Mr. Boyles, are you good to go? All right,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.